You know, when I was sitting here yesterday initiating with coverage for Amaranth, I didn't necessarily foresee the path that coverage of their group would take. And yet, I'm in a real Amaranth mood, and you'll forgive me if perhaps I've taken unexpected detours from what I originally articulated in past coverage, because, you know, I like the experience with music. As I've said many times, for me, it's just such a favorite art form in my life, just based on where I've been in different seasons and the connection and pull it has. Though I am, predisposed to loving each individualized artistic language for its own attributes, music just has that first love presence. And being able to share in that with new listeners, or at least if I can do this in any way, planting seeds to where you find talents that you'll long revere. I love doing that, if allowed. And that's kind of a shared journey of sorts. It's a bit of an unorthodox path by comparison to what real life would offer, for sure. But, because I'm talking to a screen. But I'm offering you perhaps an initiate response, I'm offering you the initiated encounter, where then we develop, right? We might have communication as well in regards to our feedback on the piece, so there is some shared interaction. But I like planting seeds if I can, right, to advantageous talents in the metal scene, or music generally speaking, and especially the European realm. And I imagine many of you are approaching Amaranth, in this case, with plenty of familiarity. It's been a long time recommendation for me to bring them on. I've been waiting to do so for a while, and I've had it in my mind for sure. And maybe for some of you, you're approaching as a first inclination. I'd love to have a mixed dynamic if at all possible, and I imagine maybe to some extensions it is. Now, when I considered, though, to up the count, because yesterday you might remember I had said that I planned out 4 tracks in total. And I looked at comparison to, you look at how many tracks you cover from other artists in Europe, and they've got like substantial numbers, some in the 20s. Like, why can't you give Amaranth the same respect? Like, 4 just felt way too minimal. So in total, I've updated it to 10. I foresaw 9. But I feel, for me, as it concerns music, right? Some of you, I'm sure, make the argument of, it seems very self-absorbed in your journey, right? You're exploring music in part, at least on the face, right? I'm exploring music to entertain myself and broaden out my library. But I truly intend it for it to be a mutual, path, right? As much as I'm enjoying new tracks, I hope the same is being fostered with you. So I'm going to take a bit of an unorthodox path and approach to what I envisioned of Amaranth and revise an earlier statement where I said, I unfortunately can't cover 82nd all the way on the context of this channel because this is more so based on a model of first impressions, at least as a general thesis and methodology. I can't cover it because I've already heard it. Well, I've revised because I thought about for anybody who's a prospective listener to Amaranth. I say perspective again, maybe this is a first inclination, or you've heard the name before. They've got good circulation, I think, at least from what I've heard and how much regard for them I've come across, even without entertaining them at the time. I knew about their name. I figure maybe in the effort to plant seeds, let's initiate with a track that perhaps I've heard, right? So maybe this isn't necessarily the freshest of perspectives, but perhaps for you it is. So I'm taking a bit of a sidestep from my model, and I don't even know what I'm going to call it, because I know this is kind of going off brand a bit from how I normally term my videos, and I'll figure that out in post. I have no clue what I'm going to frame it as. Of course, you'll know for sure, because it's published at this point that you're seeing it. But for your efforts to help you entertain, and as well, for those of you who are longtime Amaranth fans, right? And you'd be like, I would have loved to see your impression on 82nd all the way. I'm going to give you feedback on it if you forgive the fact that I've already heard it before, so it doesn't fit the first impression model. But maybe for some of you in the process, you can enjoy Amaranth's talents through 82nd all the way and get an introduction in that respect to a highly capable Swedish electronic punk rock metal type group. I truly admire them. I'm in a real Amaranth mood. I've been waiting to spotlight them. I know many of you have been waiting for their appearance, especially since, as I've said, they're the missing piece in regards to the, if you're familiar with this group, the super group, in fact, The Dark Side of the Moon. I've been covering all the other groups on the channel before, or some ongoing still in what I have yet to cover and entertain. Ad Infinitum and Feuerschwangs, Amaranth was the missing piece, because it's a combination of members of all 3. 4 in total, 4 members of that those lineups in the new one. So it just made sense at one point to feature Amaranth. I've been waiting to do it. I'm going to take a bit of an orthodox path to probably what people expected, certainly me. But in an effort to foster seeds, perhaps for those of you who might be prospective listeners, and to fulfill the expectations of some people, like, or the desire that people might have been like, I would have loved to hear your thoughts on 82nd all the way. Here you go. Well, it's a bit off brand, but if you forgive it, We're going to have a fun time. So I'm going to go ahead and cue up the video that corresponds alongside the song. We'll get an introduction for both as well, or for you. In this case, I'm familiar with either. And if you'd like to read along with the narrative of the piece to fit my general, model of what I like to do in terms of offering completion perspectives in the content I produce and offer, I will have the lyrics available for you in the screen. You'll see us pop up with the song and they'll navigate through it, so you don't have to pull a separate tab or anything. You can enjoy it on a narrative perspective if you choose to in that manner, simultaneously as you're entertained by a fun video, behind-the-scenes performance, and an exquisite cover. And I believe the cover, if I remember right, is credited to Sabaton. I almost said Sonata Arctica. Thank goodness I looked up to clarify, because I figure out in my head which one was which. So this is an original Sabaton tune. I've not heard it yet, or Sabaton. I'm not sure if the pronunciation is correct. Feel free to clarify down below. This is their cover version, and I'll tell you, in prelude, you're in for a fun ride.
Ready? Aim. Okay, York.
It's fun to listen to as a recap listen. Then again, that pacing. And I'm really building an appreciation for especially electronic intensive songs. That's new for me.
In the draft of 1917, a man from Tennessee. Overseas to the trenches he went, from the land of the free.
And Mills, I just love listening to him. I can't wait for the journey as I deepen my understanding of Amaranth. Entertaining him is going to be so much fun. And Enrique is certainly missed. He's left the group since, but man, he is exquisite. And that keyboard work on part of Olaf, I love it. Such great tones. Really keeps that momentum paced well. And blended, of course, with Morton on percussion.
When his faith had been put to the test, the call to arms he heeds. On the end of October he went, made his sergeants for his deeds.
He was leading the raid of the war machine goes on the hill. So the enemy taken the prisoners, the power of
Like I said, it's more of a playful behind-the-scenes reel, but it's engaging. I love seeing passion in regards to the videos I consult, and that's clearly evident of Amaranth.
Into the fires of hell they are gonna hear to be. Enter the war from over the sea. Into beat 1918 all the way from Tennessee. Into 123. But Sergeant York achieved that day.
will let go to the USA.
And the structuring is just so engaging on this piece. It's one of my favorites from them. Beautiful cover. Great breakdown placement, by the way. This piece is one of my favorites in terms of structuring from them, and I know, again, it's based on another artistic effort, but it's just so, it feels like one of their original pieces in energy. Part of me, admittedly, still is in the back of my mind going, I so wish I had not heard this in advance. It was before, again, like I said, I'd considered the selection of tracks for a number of months. I just hadn't gotten around to covering Amaranth yet. And I didn't realize I was going to broaden out on retrospect, because, again, it was, I did regard it, I'm like, there's only 4 tracks I'm consulting. Because, again, I go by a general time frame of dates, just to be fair and to give myself at least some constraint on how much I'm producing. So for me, I should have considered, again, I should have revised at least at the point that I recognized the original selection. And then maybe I would have been able to give you a fresh take on 82nd All the Way. But it's still fun to enjoy together, perhaps. I mean, yes, a bit of an unorthodox angle for the history of this channel in part. But again, like I said, I want this to be, as I broaden music out here as a focus, and that's been a long-time aspiration, as many of you know, I've declared as such over time, I want this to be a mutual thing, where we're enjoying tunes together to the best extent possible. If, again, I can achieve this idea, and it really is an idea in mind, I've had some confirmation that it has worked in regards to producing an opportunity for a collaborative experience of sorts, in the fact that many of you have offered plenty of pleasant exchanges with me in terms of the comments and your feedback on my thoughts, as many times in regards to the European realm, an initiate listener whose humor in first introductions, generally speaking. I hope to provide the same pathway for others, right? I love being able to, from my angle, entertain fresh talents. But if it can be a simultaneous journey, it makes the experience of entertaining new work much more rewarding than just listening to it on your own. I mean, I've had plenty of experiences like that. It's just not the same, I prefer the exchange. And to perhaps, again, there's so many artists these days in the world, generally speaking, that might not necessarily have a level of recognition, in certain fields or areas, in certain groups that might deserve. There might be an opportunity for provoking an interest. I hope to engage with that and kind of tap into that element, if I can. So, in thinking about 82nd All the Way, yeah, part of this is me, feeling kind of saddened again that the thought of not covering it, because it fit totally well in regards to the body of work with Amaranth that I had picked out. Like, how could I not spotlight this one? But to do so, I'd have to take a bit of a different model to what I normally do and go off-brand a bit. Because it's not really a first impression. But maybe it is for some of you, in that sense. Right? I hope that is the case, at least. Again, I hope for a mixture. And I welcome the company, as I said, longtime Amaranth fans, and I know there are a number of you. And it's a pleasure, of course, to share in such devotion to an exquisite metal rock talent, in the Swedish sphere, no less. But I really do hope that some of you are approaching for a first impression, and that you're developing a love through entertainment of such noble talents. In my opinion, Amaranth certainly qualifies. I'd love to hear if that is your point of angle down below. As a cover, I've not yet entertained the original work. Maybe I should have in advance, admittedly. It's an exquisite Amaranth sound, as if it were an original piece. It totally matches with them in terms of their invention. And the vocal balance, again, Enrique, Elise, and Nils just blend together so well. I know, as I said, Enrique's no longer a part of the group. It's kind of sad, but, he was great in terms, and we're going to get a lot of him in regards to the track group that I've consulted, because he was a part of the group at the time of Manifest's release, and I picked out a selection from there. I love the tonality. The keyboard effects are great. The electronic emphasis, again, is really building with me. I've not been a real big electronic metal guy, but part to the credit of Europe, it has developed, and certainly in Sweden. That's been a real go-to area that's given me this new love for electronic presence within metal. For me, because I'm not like a big... It has to be done in complement to music for it to have a resonance. It can't just be like a big, EDM... like club fest, of sound. It just doesn't hit the same chord of me. It has to have a musical backdrop in the dimension, and Amaranth employs it exquisitely when I listen to their work. It's exquisitely organized, it's fun, energetic, the video is a great behind the scenes, real, like I said, a lot of personality, real comical in part as well. It just brings you in. It demonstrates passion, and Amaranth has just appealed to me grandly in that respect. I love the vocal talents, the presence. It's just fun with Europe, broadly speaking. And 82nd All the Way, and thinking about it, it's like, how could I not recognize this work on part of the ever contributions I'm going to be consulting in future videos on Manifest? Like, it just made sense. So, if you forgive, again, like I said, the unorthodox pathway that deviates from brand normality here, it was fun. And I hope for those of you that it is a first time listen for, I hope you're engaged with Amaranth and that you're looking forward to hearing more, because we're going to have a journey with them on this channel. Stay tuned for the future, but I can't wait to dive deeper into my familiarity with them and expand it. Thank you so much for watching this video. Before you bounce, feel free to drop a like and comment, subscribe to this channel with a ding on the bell, and share this video with your friends. And consider checking out the description here. There you'll find links to my other channels, as well as addresses to my other social media accounts and ways you can help support my work if you feel so inclined. May God bless you, and looking forward to when our paths cross again.